I was just inviting everyone to get out of their chairs.
Okay.
Hi, sweetie. I'm in.
You're in? Whoever's in? Good. Good. DJ is our temple dog. DJ, say hi. DJ, say hi, look. There you go. Isn't he so cute? Okay, the temple dog is here. Sharon is coming on in. We have a couple of new goddesses here today. Welcome. I know Brigitte from Salzburg, Austria is joining us today. Hello, Brigitte.
Hi. Good morning.
Guten Morgen. And we are connecting to Mother Earth, okay? Has everyone got their roots deep into the earth? Get your hips and your feet aligned. So check the soles of your feet and see, are your feet hip distance apart? So if you don't know what hip distance is, you take your hands like this, and then you go down, and it's usually kind of 2 fists apart. Okay, let's do that. And just notice the ground beneath us, and then notice those 4 pillars on the soles of your feet. So we have kind of the 2 front pillars. Ooh. And then we have the 2 back pillars. Notice those. And then find your center. Distribute your weight evenly between the front and the back pillars of your feet. Good. Take a couple of deep breaths in and out. Let it out with a sigh. And again. And again. Good. Now, bring a little bend to your knees, a little micro bend in your knees, and start wiggling your hips. Okay. And now tilt your pelvis, right? This is your pelvis. Tilt it forward and back. You're pregnant now. So as you breathe in, you tilt it back and the chest is open. And as you breathe out, it comes forward. Just rock your pelvis. There you go, girls. Come on, rock your pelvis. That's it. And now hold it from the front, okay? And then maybe put your hand on your lower belly and on your lower back. Ooh, Carmelita left again. Just like, ooh, what's happening?
I'm here.
You're here? Okay, well, maybe a version of you left. So keep rocking your pelvis, girls. And this is so important because we want to really tuck our tailbone in, right? Right at the bottom part of our spine, that little tail, right, that's tucked in, we want to sort of uncurl it. And often we can get a little sticky in our lower backs because we maybe sit a lot. I've been sitting on planes and driving around in cars. I mean, I was cycling and walking a lot because I just move a lot. And I just notice every time that when these lower 2 chakras, 1 and 2, get stuck, it doesn't feel good, right? So as we just breathe, let's now sort of find a good point. And now sort of have the micro bend in your knees, your hips are aligned, and now suck your navel to your spine. Just tuck it in a little bit, okay? Now let's move up to the 3rd energy center, right? That's our solar plexus, the seat of our personal power, the power that comes from love and not from force. And let's breathe into 1, 2, and 3. Whew, good. Notice the roots down into Mother Earth. Notice you're safe on this planet. Although it's spinning at a tremendous speed through a quantum multiverse, you're safe. We are safe. Say it out loud to yourself. Say, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. I am here. I am now. Yes. Okay, cool. And now let's check into our hearts. Let's check in with our hearts and bring 1, 2, 3, and 4 into a nice straight line. Just notice. Find your center. Let's take a couple of breaths into our hearts. Let's affirm to ourselves, I am love. Ich bin Liebe. I am eternal. Ich bin immerwährend. I am infinite. Ich bin unendlich. Start making these sounds. This is the sound of the heart chakra, right? If you study the Vedic traditions, right, they have this mantra for the heart, which is yum, 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 yum. Start toning this with me. Come on, it's fun. Yum, 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 yum. Cool. Okay, so now we're going to bring the energy up into our throat, right? So that's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th energy center. Okay. Just breathe in and notice, is your chin strutting forward? Could you bring it back a bit? We can also start rolling our shoulders a bit. I'll open it up. So roll your shoulders and now roll them up to your ears. So good. And back so that your shoulder blades are hugging at the back. Breathe in as you come up. Exhale as you come down. Good job. Now do these sounds to get into your throat. Now let's switch directions. Roll the shoulders the other way. Okay, now we have spine aligned, now neck is aligned. Okay, chin, keep it nice and straight, shoulders relaxed, down away from the ears. You have your hands facing palm forward, right? Just relax the arms. You still got the micro bend in your knees, right? Now we're going to move up to 6. So we're going to focus on our third eye, the energy center between our eyes, eyebrows. And we're going to roll our eyes up as if we're looking through the crown of our head. So we're going to go 6, 7, 6, 7. And then we say, even if I don't know how, to co-create a magical golden goddess circle now that connects us all to our highest good, our highest selves. All I do know is, it is so now. And I am fulfilled. I delete all that could stop me. And I download everything I need to do so now with grace, ease, and joy. Thank you. So it is, so it shall be, or something even better. That's right. Breathe. Notice that golden light coming in from the top of your head, right from source, the center of the universe. And watch that golden light as it trickles down into your brain. That's right. Now reach your arms up into the sky. Stretch out. Maybe go left, right. Make yourself all long and tall. Bring some space in between your ribs. Go back. Really make yourself long. Find your most extended position. Shoulders down, right? Breathe in all that golden light, bring it down into your face. Maybe there's some movement and some circles to get yourself nice and aligned. Bring that golden energy down into your chest. Let's breathe it into our bellies. Into our hips, into our backs, into our butts, into our pussies, down into our legs. into our knees, into our ankles, right down to the soles of the feet. That's right. Now imagine that we're these channels of light, golden light, coming right from the top of our heads, from the source, from the center of the universe, right into our bodies, into the center of our hearts. That's right. Send it down into the earth, thanking Mother Earth for another day in paradise, feeling grateful to be alive, to breathe this next breath, make it count. And then bring all that energy into your heart, bring the palms of your hands together. Press the thumbs against your chest bone. Take a moment to just notice where you are right now. Breathe into your body, into your heart, into your soul. And then just with that gratitude and that presence, open your eyes. We're here. And let's find a comfortable position. You can sit down or lie down. Do whatever floats your boat right now. And have some water ready. This is not wine. It's a pretty color though, isn't it? This is hot cinnamon water. Yeah, it's cold here in Salzburg, Austria. And I love drinking hot drinks. So I'm a big tea chick, but there's a limit to how much tea you can drink. So I vary. And when it gets cold, I like to take a cinnamon stick and put it in a jug, glass or porcelain or something like that, and pour hot water on top. And then I just let it sit. And I reuse those cinnamon sticks. And the cinnamon in the water just gives it that little taste that's really nice. And cinnamon is great for our blood sugar levels. It keeps them stable. It's a great thing to kind of counterbalance any kind of diabetes things that might be on some timeline, which we do not have, right? We are healthy. So here's a tip, maybe if you'd like to follow that. So I'm so happy to gather with you all today. It feels it's been a while. The last time that we connected, Mirella and Linda were leading the circle. They jumped in because I was at my mom's kindergarten playing with the 3-year-olds, cuddling them and helping them transition in their first 2 days away from mama. I learned so much from just watching those children and as a psychologist, noticing all the different attachment styles and how these are formed in early childhood, and how all these children who are all coming from very affluent and good backgrounds, right, in that sense, how they're all so different. And it doesn't matter how much money and attention and love these parents are giving those children, all children deal with the separation from their mom, which is usually, around the age of 3 that they usually start going kindergarten or something like that, how they all deal with it so differently. And yeah, it was fun to support them there. And I've decided to give a class on early attachment styles and, some parenting advice that I do have, having 3 children of my own and 5 stepchildren. I've been blessed to be around children from day one. And yeah, it's when that comes, I'll let you know. It'll be actually an in-person thing in the kindergarten of my mom, which is in Salzburg, Austria. So maybe those of you who know someone hereabouts, or maybe I'll be able to just put my iPad up and put it on Zoom if you'd like to join. I'm sure we'll find a way. So I've just come back from New York and I learned so much there. I experienced so much that I thought if it's okay with everyone, I'd share my story. Who of you would like to know more about my last, 4 days adventure? Tell me in the chat. This is a co-creation. Would you like to know more? I'm not going to continue. Yes, Mirella said yes. Okay, Sandra said love to. Okay, cool. With that permission, let me give you the short and snappy, the most insightful recount of this adventure I was on. So you might or might not recall that I was invited by someone in New York who runs an enormous corporation worth $7.5 billion to come and train his intuition, or train him in intuition, in New York City. And at first I thought this was a big joke or might be a scam. So I did my diligent research. I really looked into this all and it seemed valid. So I said yes. And yeah, I left on the 17th of September, not knowing really what I was getting into, because I have dealt with millionaires for a long time. And I'm not saying that to brag, but just to give you context. But I've never dealt with a billionaire before. And I noticed that I had all these ideas about that. I just didn't know what would someone like that be like. And, what does he really want? And, it was pretty ambiguous. Train your intuition. Okay, I had 2 days to do that. I set up a schedule, a program. I sent that program. We had the contract. Everything was ready. But still, I didn't really know what would it be like to sit in the same room with a guy like this. And so on the day that the coaching was supposed to start, I was told, oh, it's not going to be a whole day coaching. It's actually just going to be from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. So you have the morning off. And I was like, oh, okay. Part of me felt a little sort of, what? He doesn't want me already now at 10 a.m. and what up? But then I thought, come on, Joy, this is ridiculous. You get to have free time. You get to check out Southampton, which I then actually ended up being after one night in New York City. I was taken by a driver, driven to Southampton, a gorgeous place. I mean, oh my God, paradise on earth. So then I got my ego in check and I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I went to the beach. And I had a great morning, and at 3 p.m., or actually 2:45, I was picked up by a driver in black suit and taken to a place. Again, I didn't even have the address. I didn't know what I was getting into, the next Epstein, I don't know. So I trusted, I set all my intentions and my prayers. So I was totally safe and I felt good. So I was driven up to this beautiful house in the middle of the Hamptons, closed gates, and the driver drops me off. I ring the bell, and then after time, the gates open and I drag my little suitcase, my roll-on, and my handbag up to the doorsteps, and there's the maid waiting, Juanita, of course. And she takes me to what was more a dining room, right? A dining room, very beautiful, sits me down there and says, I'm going to give him a name. What should I say? Tom. Tom will be with you momentarily. So I said, cool, thank you so much. Set out my stuff, right? And I noticed there were 2 bottles of water, 2 glasses, 1 piece of paper, and a pen. That was it. So a very different setting to how I would do it, because I had this idea that he really wanted to train his intuition, which would mean that there would be a lot of practical exercises. We would get more on a yoga mat than sit at a desk together, or at a conference table or a dining room table together. But, I just love going with the flow and trusting and adapting to what is needed right now. So I said, okay. So I sat down and got my folder out and my stuff and my book and waited. And I waited 5 minutes. I think I waited 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, interesting. And then in he came. And Tom came in and he was dressed completely in a black t-shirt and black shorts. And I was sitting down, so he came in and I stood up and he looked at me and he said, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting, and I'm sorry for my attire. And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, you look good. And I'll tell you more about why I love that was our first interaction. Anyway, so then we sat down and I asked him, what is it that I can do for you? And then he said, I have a lot of questions. And I said, okay, let's do that. Just ask me. And I said, before you ask me a question, may I give you my book? And he said, oh, you've written a book? And I said, yeah, I have, look. And he looks at me and I said, oh, great, yes, thank you. Again, I was a little surprised because I thought that this contact, the person who would contact me to ask me to come and train, had either heard me on the podcast that I did with Dave Asprey, which got a ton of traction, or that they had read my book, but neither of those two. So I still don't know how they found me, but here we go. So I sit down and he asks me, she fires all these questions at me. And it was fascinating because they were amazing questions and they really helped me, and get, a lot of information out there. And it was more like being on a show, right? So I was answering the questions as good as I could. And then he started telling me stories, very, very personal stories about his own challenges and especially in the last 5 years. And I was just taking notes, I sit there and I'm scribbling, and he was telling me that every 5 years he takes a sabbatical. So he basically works balls out like 16 hours a day, workaholic. And then every 5 years, he'll take 5 to 6 weeks off as a sabbatical to rest, recharge, and to study. So every 5 years, he studies a bunch of different things. And in this sabbatical, one of the things that he wanted to study, along with epigenetics and a bunch of history and different things, was intuition. So that's where I come in, right? So he said, I just want to know everything about intuition. And I want to tell you all these stories so that you can tell me, what is this that I have experienced? So he told me all these synchronistic happenings and challenges of just the last 5 years. And it was really bam, 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 a pattern, which basically had him at the point of deep darkness, not knowing anymore how to go on, having real physical problems and freak accidents and just, a repetitive pattern. And if he had asked me, what is this telling me? I would have might given him a different answer. But what he then asked me is, are these moments when this is happening, is this intuition that is happening? So I was like, yes, it is. That is intuition. So we deciphered, and I helped him analyze and understand these happenings and events that he had experienced. And then I helped him elicit his preferred channel of information. And this is something that I would like to do with you too. Because once you know your preferred channel of information, you know how intuition is going to speak to you, because it doesn't always speak to you. Intuition can sometimes feel to you. Intuition can sometimes see to you. So if you, for instance, are a strongly visual person, then intuition will come to you first as a vision, a visual information. That can be a dream, that can be a sudden vision, it will be something you see. Now, if you are someone who has a very strong visual channel, then you most likely also speak like that. You will, when I ask you to describe your childhood bedroom to me, you will tell me what your wallpaper looked like and what you saw in there. So you will describe a lot of sights. If you are, for instance, an auditory person, then you will most likely tell me what it sounded like to you to be in that room. Maybe you will tell me that you had the favorite sound of hearing the trees outside of your room, or the muffled sounds of your parents in the next room. You will use a lot of words that describe the sounds it sounded like. Get it? Now, if you're a very kinesthetic person, you will most likely describe it in a sense of describing the feelings that you had in that room. Or it felt so cozy to be there. I loved snuggling into my cozy bed blankets and cuddling up to my stuffy and the soft carpet on the floor. Get the point? So all these different channels will always be bringing us information. But the question is, which ones are we able to be aware of? Because remember, your conscious mind is only able to process 116 pieces of information per second. And that's not a lot. But your unconscious mind is able to process millions and millions pieces of information per second, which means that we are constantly having more input than we can actually consciously handle. So by eliciting your preferred channels of information, you will have more clarity in deciphering the different information that you're getting and knowing what now is intuitive intelligence, what is emotional intelligence, and what is just something else. Is this making sense to you? Now, we've got one more channel. The next channel is the auditory digital channel, and that's a little tricky. Auditory digital means that that is the information, the communication that you have inside of your head. Those are the thoughts that you have. In intuition, it's the knowing. You just know it. If you have a very strong auditive channel, like strong auditive digital channel, then I do, for instance, then you will speak and say things like, I just know that, I don't know, Austria is a very affluent country. This is something that is, available in statistics, and you can look this up. That was a little visual in there, but I'm just keeping to data and facts. So it's a non-emotional channel. It's just the conversation, right? And if you have a mean auditory digital channel, intuition will come to you as just a sudden, that's how it is, a word, a fragment. It's like a meep, 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 a computer input that's just there, and it's very, very clear. The problem about the auditory digital channel is that we can have so many voices in our heads, right? So if we have confusion about the voice of our hearts, the voice of our traumatic part, the voice of our protected part, the voice of, the hurt parts in us, the kindergarten, and the voice of our intuition, we can get confused in that way. So it's always good to know at least your first two preferred channels, so that you're able to really take in the second information as well, to have the double confirmation. You know what I mean? So it's like, here's an information, oh, this looks valid, but let's look at the second one too. If those two align, then yes, you can trust it. If you want to play even safer, you can do, okay, I need 3 confirmations. So how I do this, for instance, is if I have an auditory digital thing that comes in and I just suddenly know something, and I will write it down and I will let it sit for a bit. If I then, I don't know, turn on the radio and there's a song playing that confirms again that, that's my second input. I will take that seriously, because I know the next step most likely is that I'll see something outside, like, I don't know, a symbol, or I'll have a dream that will be the third confirmation. And that's how you train intuition to stay tuned into you, to keep guiding you, because intuition is a muscle, and it's something that you really have to train to strengthen. And that you do by taking the time and using your attention to place your attention on it and to honor it. Because the more often you do that, the stronger it becomes, and the more synchronicities you will start experiencing in your life, and the more things make sense. And that's an auditory digital thing. It has to make sense. So for Tom, the billionaire, everything had to make sense before he was able to even allow me to show him how to experience it in his own body. Because after day one, when we had this interrogation of all these facts, I want to know this, I want to know that, I want to know this, I want to tell you this story, I want to tell you that story. And I was just writing down, and we were having a beautiful conversation. I did say, I'd love to show you. And the best way to do this is in hypnosis, because when you allow your highest self to come in and I guide you through that process, you will feel it in your own body. Because I noticed by listening to him that his second strongest channel was kinesthetic. So he needed to feel things. And I wanted him to have that experience without crossing his boundaries, which were very clearly set up, because you see, there was a table between us. So he needed to feel safe. And I always honor that. So I wanted to take the bridge slowly and gently guide him, because my point there was also to influence him in the right way so that he would get the most out of it. And this takes us back to that conversation that we had, I think, a couple of calls ago when I recommended the book Unbound to you. Okay, Unbound by Kasia Urbaniak, a wonderful book about a way for women to step into their power. So I knew by going to deal with a billionaire, someone who is very powerful and used to being in power, right? I would need to apply everything I had learned in that book. And thank God I'd read it twice already. Because we have to know in those moments, we have to be tuned into intuition and stay in our power. But I had to also trust that I would know in every moment which power position I should take. Because if I go into this situation and completely stay in the submissive state, giving him the dominance the whole time, I will not be able to teach him anything. I might be able to teach him that, yes, I can stay submissive, but I'm not going to be able to create that breakthrough for him that he will need, or yes, to be able to create the next, up leveling in his life. Does this make sense? Because we have to, as a coach or as a teacher, push a little to take people outside of their comfort zone so that they can go into that unknown to learn something new. So it was a wonderful dance. And at the second day, I said, so hypnosis would be a thing. And I'd love to do that for you. And then he said, his body went like that. So, right, I noticed the resistance. He said, yeah, here's this thing. I did hypnosis 7 years ago. 5 years ago, in my last sabbatical, because there I wanted to learn more about past lives. So he had a teacher come in to teach him about past lives, and did a session with him. And he said, it took me 9 weeks to get back into my center. I didn't feel good. It was very confusing to me, and it was not a pleasant experience. So I honor that. And I said, yeah, I understand that. I get that. And what if I made a promise to you? What if I promised you that no matter what happens, you're going to feel better afterwards than you do now? Would you feel safe enough then to do that? And he said, yes. So I was like, yeah, good. Okay, so second day rolls out round, again, the afternoon session. And then we have the same kind of thing. He just asked a lot of questions. He said, it was so interesting and I've learned so much, but I have some more questions. What about this? What about that? So we went through all that. And then it was like 1 hour before the end. And I was like, okay, now is the time I need to push him, because otherwise he's just going to skirt around this hypnosis and then the time will be over and he's kind of not got what I, from my intuition, are getting what he actually needs. Okay, so I said, so we're almost out of time. Are you ready to do the hypnosis now so I can connect you to your highest self? Would you like to feel that in your body? And he said, okay, let's do that. So we go over to the beautiful living room area and there's a couch. And so I said, would you feel comfortable to lie on this couch? And at first he had said the day before, I don't like lying down. It makes me then feel nauseous and stuff, because he has some brain issues going on from some brain trauma that he had experienced, right? So it's a health thing. So I respect that. And at the same time, I also noticed that it might also just be fear of, having to get into such a vulnerable, relaxed state. And so in the second day, when I asked him, would you feel comfortable to lie on the couch? He said, yes. So he lay down and we got him comfortable and I sat next to him. And then I asked him, would you like to use an eye mask, to be able to go deep? And he was like, no, I'd like to keep my eyes open. I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So he lay there with his eyes open and I had got my Healy out. So I put the Healy on him and he had that in his pocket, the frequency medicine. And I had it on the coherence setting to get his brain and heart aligned. I explained it to him and he was totally okay with it. So he had that on and I saw that his body was relaxing. We didn't have that much time left and I wanted to get him into the deepest state possible. So then he was lying there with his eyes open. I asked him, does he want an eye mask? No. So I sit down and I put the music on and I just do my thing, right? I just trust. So when I'm doing hypnosis with someone, if I'm channeling or guiding a session, then I usually have my eyes closed. So, or I have at least just my peripheral vision on. I'm not just looking at the person like that, because that would be really uncomfortable too, right? So I was just sort of there, but I didn't notice whether he was going to close his eyes or not. I thought, I'm just going to let this happen. Well, he kept his eyes open until we set our intention, when I said, okay, and now roll up your eyes. So he had to close his eyes to be able to roll them up, and he did. We set our intention, and then I noticed how the body finally relaxed, and it was beautiful. We did our session, and when he came out of it, it was like, wow, that was amazing. I feel so peaceful and so good. And oh my goodness, how long was this? This is amazing. So it was all very, very beautiful. And I left with him thanking me abundantly, saying, I really want you to meet my wife. And the reason why that excites me is because she's also a psychologist, and she's also into helping mothers and children. So this might be a great new ambassador for the Joyful Kids. So it all went beautifully, and I was really at the end quite high on this amazing breakthrough, and I'm very curious what's going to happen now. So now I want to share with you those important moments of being able to influence the energy in a new way that I noticed for myself, because I hope they will be useful to you too. So remember, we talk about the submissive state and the dominant state. Both are powerful states to be in. What's not powerful is to be a kind of smush in between, not really submissive and not really dominant. And that's unfortunately what we usually do, because we haven't learned the different states. So let me explain these two states to you in a really simple way. It's all just about energy and where your attention is. If we're in the submissive state, our attention is completely inside. It's within us, okay? When we're submissive, our attention is inside. It's how we're feeling. How does this that's happening make me feel? When we're in the dominant state, our attention and focus is outside. I am not paying any attention to what this is doing to me. I am paying attention to what is happening outside of me. I am just noticing. So when he came in and was apologizing, which is submissive, and apologizing for being late and apologizing for his attire, my spontaneous reaction of, you look good, was 100% dominant. You see, dominant doesn't mean domineering, and submissive doesn't mean weak. It's just two different states of attention. So by me saying, you look good, I was in the dominant state because I was just noticing what was on the outside. Yes, and it was a compliment too, and he looked good. Okay. But when our conversation took place, and I noticed there was resistance towards the hypnosis and the experience, and he wanted this safe zone between us, I went into submissive. And just listened to his stories and gave the feedback of what my impression of his story was, what my opinions and feelings and thoughts were on what he was asking me. 100% submissive. Nothing in me there wanted to take over the conversation. I was very happy and felt powerful being submissive, but I was 100% in that place. You getting this gist? Then when we did the hypnosis, or at the end, when I said, okay, time is running out, is not an attack. It's not a domineering thing. It's a fact. Our time together is running out now. Question, shall we do the hypnosis now? I'm not saying, I'm feeling a little stressed because our time is kind of running out now. And I'm wondering, would you mind that we go somewhere else and do, feel it? It's not powerful. It's totally smushy. So thank God I had intuition guiding me so well, saying, shall we do the hypnosis now? And then taking him to the couch. Could you lie on the couch now? I'm always respectful. I'm always checking in, but I'm taking the lead. And what happens there is that if you're a good Dom, a good dominant energy, you're helping the other relax. You notice how their whole system feels safe because you've built up rapport and trust first. And that is, I think, the key to dealing with our relationships, with all our human interactions in a more graceful way. Because ideally, in an interaction, in a connection, in a communication with another being, there's an effortless flow of dominant and submissive energy. Notice that when you're chatting to a really good friend, an authentic relationship, it's natural to go back and forth. This flow of energy happens. And the more that happens, the more energy is there for all that are part of that conversation. And when we go into the resistance, and if we're not trained to handle resistance and we see resistance as a rejection, then we're going to go into the freeze, into the smush. So my invitation to you is to, for the next week, just notice the different states of power that you go throughout the day. Notice when you're in your dominant energy, meaning your focus is on the outside, and when you're in your submissive energy, when your focus is on the inside. And just notice, write them down. Have a little notebook next to your bed, and before you go to sleep, just take a couple of notes, noticing in which moments you noticed what. And notice, how do you handle resistance? What happens in your body, what happens in your mind when you encounter a no, when you encounter resistance? What happens? Do you shut down? Do you immediately go back into submissive? Usually that's what happens. And then you're, just by noticing, without judging yourself, just noticing, you're going to notice just by noticing, you're going to be able to handle the resistance and the no better by just attempting, just trying, just playing with a dominant response. What would that be? Let's say you're meeting up with someone, maybe it's someone new, maybe you're at a conference or you're in some setting where you're introduced to someone new, and this new person is, let's say it's an alpha male. And this alpha male comes up to you and asks you a really inappropriate question. Okay, could be anything. It could be your age, or I don't know, says something inappropriate and asks you an inappropriate question. What would you do? Usually, when we're asked a question like that, we feel we have to respond. Isn't it true? Isn't it true that when we're in a submissive state, we have the feeling that any question that is any demand that is made, we have to respond to? Is it true? No, it's not. Because if you are able to stay in your power and assert the dominant energy, what you could do if you are asked an inappropriate question, instead of answering, you could ask a question. You could ask a question like, what would make you ask a question like that? Or do you realize how inappropriate your question is? So try that out. When you're faced with a dominant energy that is maybe aggressive, that is inappropriate, try out asking a question instead of giving a response. Don't give information. You don't have to. Ask a question. What would make you ask that question? Or just notice something and say, interesting question. Okay? And you'll notice how the energy shifts. It just does, because all it is just energy. So I want to switch the speaker view off again now and see if you have questions, because I should think this conversation, this story, this little teaching might have brought up some stuff inside of you. So Mirella, could we switch back to gallery view so I see all your beautiful faces? Please. Thank you. Mirella, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we had a little discussion about this, so that's interesting. I always was raised to give answers. It's polite to give an answer.
It's a good girl.
Yeah, so if you don't do that, but my experience is when I do the counter question that they feel attacked. So that's and then to stay in your power, that's very powerful. Then you're like, huh, okay. So my experience is if you do that, then you're in a good state and powerful state. So yeah, it empowers me a lot.
Thank you. Cool. Anyone else? Any feedback? Anything you're noticing?
I just wanted to add something because yesterday I had a conversation with the family, a father and a mother, and there were kids coming in. And I was just like, okay, they are all around and it's like 10 people against me. Not that it was against, but I feel my power went a little bit lower. And I said, no, Lina, come on, you got so much knowledge. So you're going to answer them. And by noticing my knowledge inside of me, instead of feeling like becoming a little bit less, because they were all gathering. It was one big family and a happy family. So they were all strong, powerful in their state. They just noticed my knowledge and they all became quiet. And this was something like, aha, I did it. So it gave me a very good feeling. And then I noticed, because of what you said this morning, at what state I was. I didn't notice it then, but now I said, yeah, okay, I was doing quite good, very good. And just answering on the way, because all the time there were those questions, not from 2 people, but from 10 people. And I just noticed by being in my center, I just could answer everything on a very quiet way. So I'm
so
proud
you could handle the spotlight.
Yeah.
The thing is that we as women have been conditioned not only to be submissive, but we've also been conditioned to take the spotlight. So girls and boys are treated very differently. A little boy is rewarded and punished for what he does. Oh, look what Sam can do. A little girl is rewarded and punished for who she is. Oh, look how pretty Mary looks. So it's just very different. So we've been trained to, once the spotlight is on us, to stay in the spotlight. But when we're in that spotlight, we usually go submissive. But we need to train ourselves when the spotlight is on us to stand up and claim our power without being domineering. Because we don't want to be the domineering bitches. That's not our goal. No. The whole thing about power is that we want to be able to influence the situations, the energy in the way that's coming from here, that's coming from love, to guide it towards the best outcome, right? That's what this is about. So that great input. Thank you, girls. Anyone else want to say something?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah. If somebody says something like it triggers me in emotion, I sometimes, and most of the time, I freeze. Mm-hmm. So if it's an appropriate question, I freeze. Mm-hmm. So do you have tips for that?
Yeah, that's the freeze that we're talking about, that we want to shift, because that freeze is actually it's the that we haven't been inoculated against the no or the resistance yet. As women, we will do so much to avoid a potential no, which means that we won't even ask for what we actually want. Because with the moment we have a desire in us, we will, in the submissive state, feel into that desire, and we'll have all kinds of thoughts and fears about it. We'll say, but what if this desire, what if Sam doesn't like this desire? What if Susie doesn't like this desire? And we usually don't claim it anyway, because we're scared of what the consequences of us asking for what we need would be. And why? Because we're so terrified of getting a no. So we don't even ask. So we stay in this state and we make silent sacrifices which build resentment. And then when we ask for something, we'll ask in a smush, which actually feels threatening to the other. Because there's a difference from, let's say we have the desire for more romance. Okay, so on your vision boards and all the things, I want more romance in my life. Great desire to have. But what does that mean? What would your life look like if you had romance in your life? So the first step is to say, okay, what does it mean to me? Does romance mean that I'm going to get a bunch of fresh flowers delivered to my doorstep every single week from a lover who just loves sending me flowers? Does romance mean to me that I'm going to be taken out to candlelit dinners, to exclusive places and have my feet massaged afterwards? What does it mean? So we need to get specific on what those desires would feel like, look like, sound like, so that we can actually feel them in our bodies, because we've got to attune to that we want first. Then we discover that, yes, we will need allies. We will need other people to make these desires happen. So we'll need to train ourselves to be able to ask for what we need, being okay that no might often be the answer, and see that no only as a game. Yes, we respect that no, so we ask a different way. What about this? So say you want more support at home, and you're asking your husband to be more active in, taking part in all the stuff that needs to be done. You could say the ask and say, I desire you to be more helpful at home. Now, does that really tell the guy what exactly you want him to do? Or would it be better to say, listen, I've been thinking about the way that we divide our tasks at home. And I'm wondering, could you take the kids to school every morning? And could you pick up the dry cleaning? Is that something you could do for me? The guy will like it because he has a clear ask. He knows this is either something yes or that I can say no to. But we have to also be okay. And so you say, no, I can't take the kids to school. And then you could say, okay, but could you pick them up? Right? So you just say, okay, fine, yeah, great, I'll take that. What about this? What about that? So we just keep asking. And if that person is a general no on everything, okay, next person, next. But what we usually do is we say, oh, my desire must be wrong. It's not possible. It's just too inconvenient. No, you've just asked the wrong people, or you've made the wrong asks. Is it making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. And this is something that I would love to be able to train with us. But the thing is, we would need to do this in a room, because we now need to pair up and do this immunization against the no. So we pair up, and one just says, please, please, please. The other one says, no, no, no. And you do that for 3 minutes. That's all you do. You say please in all different ways, as the little whinging girl, as the dominant, as you just go, please, 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 and you embody it. And the other one just says, no, 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 in all different ways. So you get it out of your system. And this is the embodiment part, right? So in the intuition boot camp that I'm doing in November, I want to be doing this stuff. I don't want it to be sitting there talking. I want us to be doing it, to hear and to train, to hear, to experience it. So if you have a girlfriend or a guy you could do this with, but it's good to do in sisterhood, because that's where we can start on the most equal, unthreatening basis. Then this is the exercise to do. You get together, and for 3 minutes, one is the dominant, the other one is the submissive. The job of the submissive is just to say, please, please, in all variations of the game. And the job of the dominant is to say, no, no, no. And that will get your nervous system conditioned to be okay with no, and to stop avoiding it with so much energy. Go for the no. The next no gets you closer to a yes, really. And when we're creating from that sense of entitlement to our desires, you are entitled to those desires because you have no choice over them. You didn't choose your desires, they chose you. Isn't it true?
Yeah.
We all have different desires, and they're just there. And here's the thing, those desires won't go away. So how we respond to those desires, how the choices we make to make them happen, that is the karma that we create. So I can make my desire happen no matter what, right? You walk over corpses, you're like, this is happening, blah, whatever it costs. Well, it'll cost. Or we can say, I am holding on to this desire. It is burning in me. And every day in every way, I'm finding new creative ways to make them happen in the most graceful, easeful, joyful, and loving way. If that's my intention, you'll notice that people, experiences, opportunities just start popping in. But because you see, it took for me, what I see now, you say hindsight is always 20/20. What it took for me to manifest a billionaire who pays me to fly business class to New York, drive me around with private drivers, and pay me really good money to do that. What did it take? What it took was way back then, when I was in a pretty dark space. That was just the beginning of COVID. And I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing now. There are a lot of things I don't want to be doing anymore. I don't, but what do I want? What do I want? And then I did this whole process with myself with this, I created a thing. It's called the 3 steps to attracting or manifesting your heart's desire. And I studied it, and then I did it on myself, and then I went for it. And I said, what do I want? I want to coach, help, support philanthropists, billionaires who are already doing good. Why? Because if I help those that are already doing good, I can do more good. I have been helping the little people for over 20 years now, and I still get attacked for just that little clip that I made of, yeah, I'm going to go and see my private client. I'm in the Hamptons. I got immediately a message of, you should be helping those that are suffering most. Why are you only helping the billionaires? It happens. People are always going to judge and have their opinions and ideas and projections. It's just going to happen. But I'm doing what I love. I know that there are thousands of hours of content, free content out there. I know how many hours of charity work I do. I know how many people I help. I don't need to prove that anymore. I want to help those that are doing so much good, like this guy spends millions on charities every year. Millions. What if I help him up level so he can do billions for charities? Way better use of my energy. Wouldn't you agree? And you all deserve that big heart's desire. Every single one of you. So write your book of desires, write them down. I have them on my phone. It's called the Book of Desires. Here's what I desire. Make them outrageous. Your desires have to be outrageous. You don't have to share them with anyone. They can be, you can be your sexiest, your most, I don't know, out there that you are, but what do you want? What do you want to experience? One mistress in a mistress class wanted to lose weight, and she manifested having every single bite that she ate fed to her by adoring men. She lost 50 pounds. That's what she desired. And yet, did she find someone? Yeah. You're always going to find others who have similar desires or are very happy to support your desires. But you've got to claim and own them first so you can attract that energy. And then you attract it, you don't chase it. These people pop up. One of my heart's desires is to manifest more supportive men of the new generation around me. I am very tired and done with narcissistic, egotistical, alpha guys of the old generation. And they exist in all bodies. And I'm just like, done. I've really served, and I've learned my lessons. I want to attract the new type of men around me, also to teach them, to help them, because they do exist. I see those types of men in my own sons. This is a new generation. They think differently. They treat their women differently. It's different. And it's happening at the Airbnb. Fun story, right? After the second day, it was my last evening in Southampton. I don't like going to restaurants on my own. I used to feel vulnerable and naïve. So I usually end up going to some grocery store and buying some food and eating it in my room. So I'd done that, but I don't know, I wanted to feel and experience something. So I went for a little stroll in the garden. And then I noticed that the other Airbnb guest, called Mike, was lighting a fire in the fire pit. So I walk up to him and said, "Oh, you lighting a fire? That's amazing." And he said, "Yeah, come and join me." And then we sat around the fire. The other Airbnb guests came in, and this guy, a tennis pro, like around the 50s, delightful gentleman, ended up serving 4 goddesses, because all 4 other house guests were women. And he was like, "Would any of these ladies like wine?" And she brought us a glass of wine. He'd stoke the fire. And you know what? He was happy. He was happy because he was allowed to be in that bubble of 4 women chatting by the fire. We were honoring him. We were thanking him. We was, "Come on, sit down with us." And he did. And then I sat there and I said, wow, these men exist. And they're happy, and they're centered, and they're just as much enjoying being in this love bubble as we all are. And did he want anything? Nothing. Was he hitting on any of us 4 women? No, it was just a beautiful evening. So the moment you claim a heart's desire and you really embody it, you tune in to what would it feel like to have it, your frequencies change and you start attracting it, really. Any other questions?
Irene has a question, I guess. She's got her hand up.
Yes, I found it difficult to unmute myself. I have a question. If you have had a heart desire and you're really feeling it, you start glowing if you talk about it, and now you reached the goal, or you start with that job, it's gone.
It's gone?
Yeah, I don't feel it anymore. I don't feel the energy because I want to.
Okay, that's a great question. You know what's happened there? You haven't reached your deepest heart's desire yet.
No, I don't know what.
One thing is that, and again, a very female conditioning, is that we can reach a goal, something that we really thought we desire, we get it, and we have this, right? I call it a pleasure hangover. It's a celebration freeze. It's normal. It's normal that when we reach something really amazing, we have a hangover afterwards because we have to process it. And we haven't been usually trained to just sit with it, to also embrace and celebrate that moment, because we're usually not used to celebrating any moments anyway. So celebrate and just notice, okay, usually takes 2-3 days. And then it's like, what next? Because you see, sometimes we can think we want something, that something is a heart's desire, but it wasn't actually quite it. But that doesn't mean that that desire was wrong. It gave you great pleasure, but now it's time to go to the next thing and to tweak it. Maybe it's not the bunch of flowers every week that you want. Maybe it's having someone who takes you out to a field and picks the flowers with you that is more, because what that flower picking or thing was actually was to feel honored in your time. You see, that's why we need to really dig deep into these desires to find out where's the juicy bit. And how you do that in life in general is you just look, what is most alive to me? What is most alive to me? And when we're then faced with options, do you want to write a book? Do you want to do them? And they're all great, because they're all great offers that might bring you to a desire that you truly have. You have to then look at all these different options and say, which one is most alive? is it most alive to me? For instance, option with the billionaire. I was told I can either coach and train him in Manhattan or in Southampton. Now, both are cool. But what felt more alive to me was Southampton, because I've never been there, and it's nature and it's green. So that feels more alive. So my desire was more there. Both would have given me success. I could have done a great coaching in a stunning penthouse in Manhattan too. So it might have been just as good. So it's more about, saying, okay, what's next? How can I expand this juiciness even more? What else would make me feel really alive inside? Yeah? Is that making sense?
Yeah. I will try different questions to myself.
Yeah, just and start really journaling these little desires, little things of, and it's mainly what would it look like, what would it feel like to have that, right? Who would you be then?
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. Any final musings or something before we close the circle? Okay. I have a card for us. I will read it to us. So as we gather all the beautiful information and take all that is helpful and useful and supportive to our highest good and bring it into our hearts, trusting that all shall integrate in just the right way as we need it to help us tune into our heart's desires and live them every day more and more in the most graceful, joyful, easeful, and loving way. Let's breathe into our hearts, blessing every single goddess in this circle who's listening right now. And then our prayer for today is, thank you, universe, for helping me see beyond the limits of fear. Thank you for expanding my perceptions so that I can see what is of the highest good. Wishing you a beautiful day or night. Be blessed and see you next week. I love you.